Thanks for joining me. We're talking about all things fluency. When we think of fluency, we normally think of reading and writing. That's where it's most commonly used. And that's where I talked a lot about it when I was teaching kindergartners to read and to write. And what was interesting to me and why I was really inspired to do this blog post and share this information with my friends is that my sister and I just had a conversation on the phone, and she's a school psych in Oregon, and she's also learning to play the guitar. Now, how is this all connected? We have kindergartners learning to read and write. We have a school psych. We have the school psych learning to play guitar, all coming from a dog trainer. I'll connect the dots for you. So we had this discussion about fluency, and what fluency is the ease of which you do something. The fluent part is that it's automated. There's not a lot of thought used to complete the task. So when I was teaching the kindergartners to read, first we would teach the alphabet, and they need to be able to see the A and say ah, that it was really fast. Because when I put the word cat in front of them, I needed them to sound it out quickly. Cat, cat. The slower they were, the more everything broke down. They'd go k, a, t, t, t. And they were not able to put it together. They were not able to make a picture in their head of, that's a cat, I'm just going to say the word. And then they'd go k, a, t. And the faster that they would say each of the letters, the more that picture was developed, and they'd go, oh, it's cat. So what we want to do is build up that speed, and then you get that comprehension. And so going back to my sister, who's the school psychologist, and she's learning to play guitar, we were talking about how when she's learning how to play the guitar, if she could become more fluent at strumming the guitar on a certain piece of a song, she could then move to the next part. Instead of doing everything really slow and she has to think about which chord to pluck or strum, she's looking at the music notes and she's trying to comprehend on the guitar. Everything is slow and it really breaks down, which does not make the song flow very well. You're like, what song are you playing? Because everything is just so chunky. And so she was like, I need to become more fluent at just doing this piece, meaning I can play that part without thinking about it. I have done it so many times that it becomes automated. It is not difficult for me. I can do it with little thought. And when we think about all the places in life we see fluency, once you start looking for it, you can see it anywhere. You're very fluent at driving a car. When you very first started driving the car, you were trying to look out your window 10 and 2. If it was a stick shift, oh my God, you got to figure out how to do the clutch. Everything was just so, you were thinking about what to do next, putting your blinker on, doing your mirror check, over the shoulder check. And it was something that you were trying to be ever so present. To now, after so much practice, you're able to get in the car. You're not even thinking about driving the car. As scary as that sounds, you're not even thinking about driving the car. You're like, oh my gosh, I need to pick the kids up from school. I need to make sure that I pick up half and half on the way home for coffee in the morning. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. Meanwhile, you're reversing, you're parking, you're parallel parking, you're going here, you're going there, you're getting to the stoplights. Same as when you see a stoplight, you don't go or a stop sign, I should say, stop. We see it, we go stop. We're not even registering actually reading the sign. We see it and our brain goes, that's easy. We've seen it a million times. Your foot immediately goes to the brake and you stop the vehicle. It is very fluent, easy to do. Now, coming full circle and taking this to dog training, how fluent is your dog at performing a skill? Oftentimes I hear, well, my dog knows better. My dog can do this at home. I hear that over and over and over again, and I absolutely believe that. But how fluent is your dog in doing the skill in different scenarios under different conditions. How automated is that skill? And so what we're going to do here is you can test this, and you can clearly see it is something measurable to know if your dog is gaining fluency in a skill. How easily can they perform the skill when asked? And you can measure that so you know if you're making progress or not. So let's take sit, for example. You can do a 1-minute test. So you're going to set your timer for 1 minute. Now, everything as you run your tests, you need to keep everything as close to the same as possible. So if you're going to be, let's say, using treats during your 1-minute test, your time test, then you're going to use treats on your other tests as well. Otherwise, you're not comparing apples to apples. So if you're going to use treats and you're going to do your 1-minute test, how many times can you get your dog to sit in 1 minute? And then you are going to take the number of times asked compared to the how many times your dog responded or did not respond. And that will give you a percentage and how fluent your dog is at sitting. Maybe you want to do a 1-minute test where you do not use treats. You're just doing it on the verbal. Maybe you're only doing it on the hand signal. So you're going to get a baseline of what is the percentage of my dog compared to how many times I asked them to sit, to how many times they actually responded. How many did I get out in a minute? The more your dog knows sit, the better your dog knows sit, the faster they are going to be at responding. So your percentage is going to increase in accuracy and fluency. How many repetitions did you get out? Then what you can do is you can do a check if you go out onto the front porch and do the same thing. I don't recommend doing it on the same day. But on another session, you go out to the front porch. Remember, did I use treats or did I not use treats? Did I do it on the verbal or did I do it on the hand signal? Make sure that you're keeping it the same as possible. You're moving locations only. You ask your dog to sit. You're going to set your timer for 1 minute and see how many times you can get your dog to sit in 1 minute. How fast are they? Did it take a lot of thought? Did you have to give them the hand signal? You're going to lose time if you give them that hand signal after you've asked them on the verbal. That's going to decrease your rate of fluency. So again, this is very measurable. You'll start to understand, oh, my dog is not very fluent at sit. They have to think about it. I, as the human, have to work harder to get my dog to sit when we're at a pet store. So if you get it automated, you're going to get responses really, really fast. And that makes the skill so much more usable in the real world. You're like, oh, my dog knows this very, very well. When I ask, they do it automatically. They don't have to think about it under these conditions. When you are under different conditions, whether you're in the city or the country, as soon as you see that stop sign, your foot immediately goes on the brake and you come to a stop. When you go into the city, from the country, you don't have to think, oh, what is that again? What is that? It's a red sign. It has an S-T-O and a P on it. You're not sounding it out. You're not figuring out what the red sign is. You know it really well in the country. You know it really well in the city. You know it everywhere you see it. The red sign means put on the brakes. We want that for your dog. We want them to use the least amount of thought possible to act. So I'm going to be doing the 1-minute test with Annika to see how fast we are. Now, it doesn't mean that your dog needs to be as fast as my dog, and my dog doesn't need to be as fast as your dog. What is good? What is appropriate? What is the percentage we're looking for? Who knows? Who determines that? Guess you do. Is that number acceptable to you? Do you feel that there was latency, that it was really slow? You decide that. So whatever I get with Annika, is not necessarily what's good, because in my eyes, it might not be fast enough. That I might want to work on that skill a little bit more to get up that fluency, to get that response to be quicker. So I can go in any situation, I can ask for a sit and she's going to sit automatically. But my number might be different from your number. You might say, that's good enough for me. Or I might say, that's good enough for me. But you might have higher standards. I don't know. There is no study done that says this is the number. We want to get to this point. So run your test. I'm going to demonstrate with Annika. You're going to run your test, and then you're going to record what was your rate of fluency. And then you can perform another test. Maybe it's not high enough and you're going to stay in the kitchen and work there. Maybe it was really low. You asked for a sit and your dog got 0. Then you're going to stay in the kitchen and you're going to work on getting them to sit in the kitchen before you ever go outside. Because there's no way you're going to get a sit outside if you can't even get it in the kitchen. So keep everything acceptable, but acceptable to you. Okay? So sit tight. I'm going to run my 1 minute time test with Annika, and we're going to see how fast she sits. Okay. So I've got 1 minute on my clock. I've got my dog, Annika, and then I've got treats in, because I'm going to be using treats on this one. I'm going to ask her without a lure, but then I'm going to reward her. And that will slow down my time because I am going to be rewarding. But if I do that every single time, then my tests are consistent. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep everything the same. So when I do another test, I will still ask on the verbal command, and then I will reward, knowing that I've been rewarding in every single test, and that will slow down how many repetitions I get. But when you're comparing apples to apples. Okay, here I go. I'm going to start. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. So I'm just moving a little bit to get her up. Come here. Sit. Yes. It does take some of my time, but that's okay. Sit. Yes. Good girl. Come here. Sit. Yes. Come on. Sit. Yes. That's gonna happen. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Good. Sit. Yes. Sit. Yes. Good. Okay, so my time's up. So that was my time trial. So I'm going to see how many times I asked and how many times she responded correctly, okay? And then we will get the rate of fluency. Then what I will do is maybe tomorrow, I'll find another spot once I have my baseline. I'm going to find another spot to do the same exact test and see what her rate of fluency is in a different spot. Is it better? Is it worse? And I'll adjust my training accordingly. If she did really poor out here, and by poor I mean in my own opinion, remember, I'm the one who's making up how fast do I want her to be. If it was really poor, in my opinion, I would then stay right here and practice out here. I would not move on. But I knew she'd do really well indoors, but you might not ever come outdoors in the beginning. You're going to do your very first one in your living room or in your kitchen. That is where you are going to start. Get your baseline there before you ever go outside. Okay? So go ahead and do your time test and see how that works.
I'm going to calculate this and show you Annika's rate of fluency.
I highly recommend recording yourself when you're doing this, and that way you don't have to count how many repetitions you asked for and how many they responded to. It gets to be too difficult. So I would record yourself doing it, go back and rewatch your video, and then make your check marks like I did here on this sheet of paper. I was able to ask Annika to sit 15 times. She got 100%. She sat and she got 15 done in 1 minute. So I would do another test and see if we can get at least 15 in 1 minute again. And if it is really low, I know that in that environment, I need to work a little bit longer to get back up to 15 at least. I feel 15 was very reasonable. She was responding very fast. And so in my opinion, we did good. Now it's time for you to try.